Hi.
My name's J.C. McCauley.
I'm Naisha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
Okay, my friends, once again, it is indeed time to get our talk on. It's Morning Talk with me, your host, J.C. McCauley, along with the champions of talk. All right. Each and every Monday through Friday, we are here on AccessTV.org, on Facebook, Pinterest, LinkedIn, other social media, Twitter, YouTube, and, of course, at AccessTV.org. We invite you to tune in 8 o'clock for interesting guests and conversation. Every Monday, Jonathan Small is here with an interesting guest from around the world, someplace, and we have a master class in whatever area of expertise they have. Tuesdays, we kick it up a notch with a little controversy with Luis Delgado, talking about all things controversial. Wednesdays, we have Dr. Maya Bowen. We talk about things on an educational nature. On Fridays, we slow it down, but every Thursday, we have a mystery guest. So tune in tomorrow when we slow it down. Cleo Duke Wright will be here along with Joe Young, talk about his new project. But today, we're going to get into a little bit of paid family medical leave, an important topic. And we have somebody here who is an expert in the subject. And she's going to join us and tell us about herself and about her position as the CEO of Connecticut's paid family leave. And so with that, let's welcome our special guest and special mystery co-host, if you will, our talk champion for today, Andrea Barton Reeves. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me.
It's good to have you on board. Thanks for taking time out of your schedule.
Absolutely.
To join us. Let's start off with a little bit about who you are. Introduce yourself to our audience.
I'm happy to. Again, thank you for having me today. I am Andrea Barton Reeves, and I am the CEO of Connecticut's Paid Family and Medical Leave Authority. We just call it Connecticut Paid Leave. I am an attorney by training, but I've spent the last 20 years or so in social services, most recently as the president and CEO of HARC in Hartford that supports people with intellectual disabilities and their families. And I'm originally from New Jersey, and I've spent the last 23 years in Connecticut, particularly in Windsor and the city of Hartford.
All right. Paid family leave. Wow. So walk us through a little bit why, excuse me, this is so important. This is basically pretty new here in Connecticut.
It is. So what most people don't know is that the state has had family and medical leave that's been unpaid for almost 30 years, since 1996. But you had to have a pretty significant number of hours that you'd worked for one employer, over 1,250 hours. You had to work for that employer for a year before you could even access that benefit. And then when you could get the family and medical leave, you could take it, but all of it was unpaid unless you had enough time that you'd saved up through vacation or paid time off or anything else that you may have received. That was really an impossible hurdle for most Connecticut workers to reach unless they worked for large employers that happened to offer the benefit. And it also only applied to employers that had 75 or more employees. There's also a federal corollary to family and medical leave, but it had some pretty draconian standards as well. So there were hundreds of thousands of people who worked in the state and across the country, but particularly in our state, who just couldn't get family and medical leave. And you would have that to have surgery for yourself, to take care of someone in your family who was sick, someone who was injured in the military. And if you needed to take time off to attend to any of those issues, you were basically on your own. But then came the law that was passed in July of 2019, and it did two things. One was it shortened the amount of time that you would be eligible to take job protected family and medical leave. And the other thing that it did is it made sure that you could get paid while you were out. So you didn't have to worry about whether or not you had enough vacation time or PTO or any of those things in order to access a paid benefit while you are out on FMLA, as family medical leave is called. And that is really a game changer for so many people. But there are a lot of people, particularly in communities of color and communities where lots of people hold multiple jobs and have lower wages, that don't even know that this program exists. So they're still struggling, still making really difficult decisions about whether or not they can be at the NICU with their baby or they have to go to work. And these are real examples. So my purpose here today is to let more people know that this program exists, that it is an entitlement as long as you meet the criteria, and you should avail yourself of it, because every employee who meets the statutory definition of employee is paying into it with 0.5% of their wages every pay period.
Okay, so then no matter where you're working, by virtue of the fact that you're employed, you're paying into this every time you get a check.
With some exceptions. So if you work for a local or a regional board of education, the school system, or some municipalities, they're not generally covered unless they're in a union and the union votes that workplace is covered. Also, if you work for a private school or a parochial school, they're not covered. And that's because private schools and parochial schools have never been covered by the Family Medical Leave Act that I spoke of earlier. So there are some exceptions, but for the most part, the majority of employees in the state are participating in the program, and they're paying in their 0.5%.
So at the very least, people should be, one, aware of this, and two, they should avail themselves. Even if they're unsure, they should still at least try, rather than to assume that they're not.
That's right. If they're unsure, they should at least ask the question, Are we a covered workplace? And am I eligible? The other thing I think it's important for people to know, and this can really be confusing because the family medical leave is sort of a separate thing, but there's a change to that law that's really important. So if you've been working for an employer for 3 months and you need to go out because you have to have surgery or you need to take care of a family member for a qualified reason, or as I mentioned before, if there's someone in your family who's injured during active duty and you need to take time off to take care of them, you are entitled to take that leave and get your job back when you come back if you've worked for that employer for 3 months. So I know folks are often reluctant to take time because they're afraid they're going to get fired. But if you've been there for 3 months, you cannot be fired if you take a qualifying reason away from your job. And that is huge because, like I said before, you have to be there a year in order to get that level of job protection. And you don't have to work the 1,250 hours. You don't have to do any of that anymore. You're just there 3 months. You have your job protection. You go out on your leave. You come back, and your job is protected. And it's your job, not a job, but the one that you left or an exact equivalent of it.
Okay, so you said something that was rather interesting because I think I had, conflated or merged the two into one. There's actually two separate things going on here. It seems there's medical leave and then there's family leave.
Well, it's a little different. There's family and medical leave, which I mentioned before. The state has had for close to 30 years. And then there's now the opportunity, which is what my agency does, to get paid while you're out, whether you've been able to save up enough vacation time or PTO time or not. And that's what we do. So we offer a paid benefit when you go out on family and medical leave. So it might be helpful if I walk through some of the reasons why you would be eligible for family and medical leave, and then we can talk about, how you access that benefit.
Okay.
So the main reason that people take family and medical leave is for their own serious health condition. And that can include surgery, joint replacements, and the like. It also includes pregnancy and childbirth. And it also includes being an organ or bone marrow donor. So it's a pretty wide range of reasons why you can take leave for your own serious health condition. The next one is for bonding leave. So this is if a child joins your family through birth, adoption, or foster care. It's available for up to 12 months after a child joins your family, and it's available to both parents, regardless of gender or marriage or any of those things. Then there's something known as caregiver leave, and that's available for you as a worker to take care of the person who may have just given birth or had that serious health condition. So that's also something else we find a number of people are taking. Then there's two types of military leave. One is called military caregiver leave. So if someone's been injured on active duty and you are the spouse or child of that person and you want to take time off to take care of them, you can do that under the Family and Medical Leave Act for up to 26 weeks. And then 12 of those are paid. The same thing is true for what we call qualifying exigency leave. And that's really leave that you take when someone's going to be deployed overseas or into the military in general. That's also a 26-week leave, but you can get up to 12 weeks of those paid through the paid leave plan. And then finally, we have what's known as the Family Violence Act in our state. The Family Violence Leave Act, I should say. Mm-hmm. That's always been in effect. It's a law that's really probably close to a decade old by now. And you can take up to 12 days of leave if you are a victim of family violence. But before, again, it was unpaid. Our law now says you can still take that leave. It's still a very active and valid law. And now you don't have to worry about whether you saved up enough vacation time because you can apply to the paid leave authority if you qualify and get a benefit while you're out for those 12 days. So that's really a framework of what the reasons are that you can take family and medical leave from work. Now you got to figure out, how am I going to get paid, right? If I don't have 12 weeks of leave saved up somewhere, this is going to be a problem for me. And that's where we come in. So once you qualify for that family and medical leave for the reasons that I outlined, then you can come to the paid leave authority and say, I've qualified, I'm taking this time off, and now I need some wage replacement. And that's what we do.
Okay, and so the individual who's seeking the leave is the one that would reach out, or with their employer or their HR department, who's responsible for doing the outreach?
The majority of people who are applying for leave now are the people themselves who are taking the leave for the reasons that I outlined. Mm-hmm. In some circumstances, if a person is completely incapacitated, obviously we're not asking someone who's in a coma or severely injured to apply for their leave. Someone can apply on their behalf. And we release limited amounts of information to them so that they can fill out the application and complete a specific form. But for the most part, it's people who are seeking the leave who are applying.
Okay. So now, if what about for folks who are self-employed? Do they pay into this, or would they not be qualified?
No, thank you for asking that. That's a great question. So you most certainly can participate if you're self-employed. So if you are self-employed or a sole proprietor, there is a residency requirement. You have to live in the state and your business has to be in the state. You can opt in at any time, but if you do, you have to stay in for 3 years, and that's by law. And also you should know that if you are a sole proprietor or a self-employed individual and you're employing people in the state, you have the option to participate, but your employees are required to participate. So you have to collect that 0.5% from them, send it in, and then they can avail themselves of the program.
Wow, that's pretty cool. How about that? Okay, so this is that's all right. That's really neat. So now this when did this go into effect here in Connecticut?
Right. So the law was signed in July of 2019 by Governor Lamont, and it had two specific deadlines. One was to start collecting that 0.5% in January of 2021, and then to be able to offer the benefit in January of 2022. And we were very fortunate, although we were in the midst of a pandemic, that we were able to meet both of those deadlines. So as of December of 2021, we opened up the application process, and we had 5,000 applications in a month. And now next year, the following year, I should say, which is the year that we're in right now, we are now paying benefits starting in January. And we are up to 21,000 applications. So there is now a bit of a delay in getting through all of those. Most of those were driven by the spike in COVID.
Wow. So
Yeah.
that's a huge undertaking. So how are these applications processed? I would imagine that. So there's a human being that has to go through all this paperwork. That's a lot of
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. There are many human beings that have to go through all the paperwork.
So
So
how large is the agency?
the agency itself only has 30 people in it. So what we did is we hired a third-party administrator
Mm-hmm.
through a competitive bidding process, and we chose AFLAC, which many people are familiar with. They know for disability insurance and the duck. Everybody
The
knows
duck,
about the duck,
Aflac. Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So they are the ones that are actually taking in the applications and providing the analysis to determine whether or not a person qualifies, and then processing the application and paying the benefit on our behalf. Because they're practically there's no way that 30 people can do that. It's not practical at
Yeah.
all.
Wow. So then your agency or authority it pretty much manages or is responsible for making sure everything happens correctly.
That's exactly right. This part in this first quarter, because we received so many more claims than we anticipated, the process is not working quite as quickly as we had hoped. So there still is a bit of a delay in the time that from the time a person submits their application to the time that they actually get a decision. And because it just takes time to get through all of those. But we are managing that process by providing, I'm sure Affleck would say this, very, very close oversight of the process, keeping track of those claims, responding to concerns that constituents might raise about either the quality of the process itself or any delays that they may be experiencing. So, our decision early on is that we would really be the subject matter experts and provide the oversight, and that we would ask a partner who's well versed in this space to actually do the work on our behalf, because it just isn't what we do, and we wanted it done well. And so in order to do that, we partnered with someone that we knew could do it.
Wow, this sounds like a very, very interesting program. It sounds absolutely phenomenal in terms of what it allows for people to do. So, if family member, a new child comes into the household, the bonding time. You don't necessarily have to be the mom. You could be the dad. The dad could take time off.
That's right. That's right. That's why we say that it really is
Hmm.
gender neutral. And we know, I'm so glad that you raised this point, because then it allows me to talk about other parts of the law that I find exciting. And I am a lawyer by training, so I do get excited about law. So
Every
I'll
lawyer I've
just
ever
preface
met
it by
gets
saying
excited about the law.
yes,
Like chefs.
I will, I will preface it by
Yeah.
saying that. So the thing about this law is that it recognizes families in all the shapes and sizes that they come in. So one of the other things that it does is it dramatically changes the definition of a family to something called related by affinity. And that means that if you have a very close connection to someone who is like family to you, but you don't necessarily have a biological bond to them or a marital bond to them, with the right amount of proof, you can still take time off to take care of that person. So, as you mentioned before, let's go back to the bonding for a minute.
Hmm.
If you have a couple who both of whom are the same gender or sex, depending on the term that you use, and they're both parents to a new child, they can each take that time under family and medical leave, and also under paid leave, to spend bonding time with that child. There are a few exceptions if they work for the same employer, but if they don't, they're each then entitled to their own 12-week bucket of bonding, and they can decide how they each want to use that at the same time, sequentially, however it is that they decide. But the exciting thing about the related by affinity is that if you haven't been married, or let's say there's an auntie or a godmother's, like, my godmother's long past, but she
Hmm.
was a second mother to me. There wasn't a weekend or a special occasion or an important occasion in my life when she wasn't there. And she did eventually succumb to breast cancer. And if she were alive today and this law were in effect, then I could demonstrate through pictures and all kinds of things that she was really important to me, and I wanted to be part of her circle of care. And that's what this law allows by changing the relationship from ones that we traditionally know to ones that really reflect family as we define them for ourselves.
All right, so this is important information to know, particularly in our community, because as you mentioned, there's a long legacy of aunties, uncles, and close family members who provide the primary support and care for individuals, and most people, and I know several people who have left their jobs or their employment to go and give care to
That's
a
right.
family member, and they
That's
they
right.
literally quit. They had to leave their job. They had to quit.
Yes.
They had to quit.
That's right.
So what this provides is, at least, if at the bare minimum, a buffer for you to be able to go provide a level of care for a sustained period of time, for which your job is protected. To me, the major takeaway is more job protection. I know there's income provided to you while you're absent, but even if people were willing sometimes to take the hit in pay, they would lose their
Yes.
jobs, and that
That's right. That's right.
you know.
So let me just say a little bit more about the job protection, because
Mm-hmm.
the job protection is available, like I said, if you work for your employer for 3 months or longer,
Mm-hmm.
and it's available for only for the 12 weeks that you're out on leave. So the maximum amount of time, with the exception of the two types of military leave that I outlined, is 12 weeks. And you can take that in any combination. So it could be 2 weeks to be caregiver, 3 weeks for bonding, a week for your own serious health condition. But the max is the 12 weeks. Now, after that 12 weeks is over, then the job protection also ends. But for a lot of folks, that 12-week amount of time, or even sometimes 6 weeks, is just enough to kind of get you into some sort of cadence that you can figure out what's going on in your life, and then you can figure out what to do. The other important thing here is to understand the different types of leave that there are. So not only can you take leave for the reasons that I outlined, you can take it in different kinds of lengths. So one of them is the continuous, or what we call the block leave, which is, I'm going to be out for 4 weeks because I have to have surgery. All right. So that's the kind of leave we usually know about. Then the other type of leave is called intermittent leave. And that is, I need to have some kind of treatment, or I'm taking someone who's getting treatment, let's say dialysis as an example. And I'm part of that circle of care of people that takes grandma to dialysis every week. Now I can take my 2 hours a week, up to 12 weeks of 2 hours a week, right? The equivalent of that. So that'll last much longer than a full work week of 12 weeks, so that I can be part of the support of that family and my own family, and I can take care of them. And I think that's something that people aren't aware of. We also know in our community that we have a lot of children that have asthma and other chronic health conditions. And often we have to take time off in order to take them to their doctor's appointments. That would be considered caregiver leave. And parents can, after the 3 months, they have that job protection. They can take those 2-3 hours and take their children to the doctor and not have to worry about getting paid while they're out or losing their job, as long as they're within that 12-week window, which can be measured by hours as well as days. And I think it's important for people to know. The third kind is what's known as reduced schedule leave. And that means you're still probably working some number of hours at your job, but it's fewer than you would normally work. So let's just go with our typical 40-hour work week. For 6 weeks, I need to work for 30 hours because I need to get 10 weeks of treatment, or I need to have 10 hours available for caregiver responsibilities. I can also do that. And then I can get paid for those 10 hours a week for that 6-week block that I'm out, because I have a qualifying reason to be out on family and medical leave. This is the kind of flexibility and freedom that people don't even know that they have. And it applies regardless of whether or not you work full-time, part-time, 3 jobs, 1 job. That's the difference here. As long as you've worked those 3 months and you have your job protection, you should avail yourself of this leave.
Well, that's pretty cool. So now you mentioned the 1 job, 2 job, 3 jobs. So if I was working, let's say I was working 3 jobs, max it out. So I'm working 3 jobs, trying to make ends meet. Inflation's going off the hook. Gas is $8 a gallon. It seems like where it's going anyway. So gas is expensive. You're working just to keep the gas tank full, it seems. But nonetheless, I digress. So I have 3 jobs. I've got the early morning job. I got a little rest break. I do my afternoon job, which is maybe 4 hours, and then I'm picking up this other job because I got this special project that we want to do, yada bada bing, for the kids. So now I'm working maybe from 9 to 2. However, my situation requires me to take time from all three. Would I be covered by all three workplaces, or only like one of those workplaces?
So if you're taking time off from all three workplaces, you would be paid for the benefit amount that you're entitled to for taking time off from all three places. But you raise a very important point. There's a maximum benefit amount here, and it's $780 a week. It's actually 60 times whatever the prevailing minimum wage is at the time. And right now it's $13 an hour. So that would be $780. So if you're earning more than that at your three jobs weekly, one or two or more of your employers may actually offer you short-term disability, the ability to take some of your paid time off to make up the difference between the $780 and what you might bring in. So that's one scenario. The other scenario is if you're only taking time from one of those jobs, you can continue to work at the other two, and then we would actually determine what your benefit is based on what you've earned. So that maybe this is a good time to talk about what the criteria is for eligibility for the paid leave benefit.
Okay.
Because you do have to earn a little bit of money. You do have to earn $2,325 in the highest earning quarter of the last 5 quarters. So the 4 of the 5 quarters that you've worked. So it's, quarters are basically in these 3-month chunks. What we're going to look back is at the last 5 quarters that you've worked. And of the first 4, we need you to have earned $2,325 in at least one of those quarters. And then we use that with other information that we get from your employer, assuming you're not self-employed or a sole proprietor, to figure out how much money you should get. And again, right now the maximum is $780 a week.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so that's easy enough to wrap one's head around.
That's right.
So like 780 is the maximum.
Is the maximum you can get right now. As the minimum wage goes up, that number will go up. But for right now, that's the maximum that you can get. But if you're earning minimum wage right now, and let's say you're working one job and you're earning minimum wage, and I have to tell you, I don't know many minimum wage workers that are only working one job. They're usually working multiple jobs. Then the ability to be able to take time off from that one job and get that 780 and not have to worry about this, so you can create some time and space in your life to take care of someone that you love, that we know is making a significant difference in people's lives. We know that already.
Okay, so now let's switch hats and talk about from the employer side. So if I'm the employer and I have to pay into this, I heard you say earlier 1%. So what is that 1%? Where's that come from?
Yeah, it's actually a little less. It's actually 0.5% that each employee has deducted from their paycheck whenever they get paid weekly, biweekly, monthly. We have all kinds of cadences that we're learning about. And then that is remitted by the employer to the Paid Leave Authority. We put that in a trust fund, which has about $398 million in it right now. And it's from that trust fund that we pay those benefits. It is strictly employee paid. Employers make no contribution to the fund at all. Which is different than the plans in other states where there's some ratio of employer to employee contribution. Here, this is all worker money. And so that's why it's really important, we feel in particular, that workers know that this plan exists because they're paying for it. And they should know that it's available to them and avail themselves of it where they can.
Okay, so this is kind of like a sneaky value added to the employer. It's like in their benefit to let the employee know, because they don't have to pay anything. All they really have to do is like an administrative type deal with whoever handles their payroll.
That's right. So for very small employers, though, I do want to be fair. For the very small employers, it does tend to pose a challenge to them because, remember, the threshold for the application of the Family and Medical Leave Law was really larger employers that had 75 or more employees working in their workplace. Now that threshold is down to one or more employees in your workplace. So now you have to give them access to family and medical leave and the entitlement of the paid leave benefit when they take that time off. So we have a lot of small employers that are very concerned about that because they may have 3, 4, 5 people in their workplace, and they're concerned that if everyone takes leave at the same time, they'll really be left with no one to keep their business as a going concern. And we hear that quite often. So we're really trying to educate small businesses about what they can do and what resources they might have available to them so that they don't find themselves in that circumstance. But on the other side of that, it does allow them to offer a benefit that would really be prohibitively expensive otherwise, because we can pool those resources and offer that paid leave benefit, and the person can take that time, and the employer doesn't have to figure out how to pay them while they're out. And this used to be, we hear this a lot from small employers. I would love to offer my best employee X number of weeks off, but I really can't afford to pay them for more than 2 weeks or 3 weeks at a time. So now that's not a concern anymore. And it's actually now, it's a hiring benefit for employees who are now saying, I'm going to come to Connecticut because I can get the paid leave benefit. And if I have to have surgery and be out for 2 weeks, I don't have to worry about this anymore. And I can work for the employer of my choice because I now have this benefit that's available.
I think it's important that you stated that, because you'll hear people say, you'll hear the those who are opposed to this use one side of the coin, but of course every coin has two sides. There's no one-sided coin, and it's, here's this can also be used as an incentive for individuals, because here's a benefit. So I could see where that's where that would be a drawback if you've only got like 2 or 3 employees and you really, really need them and one of them leaves. But that to me would be something that anybody who's in business as a sole proprietor or a small business that only has 2 or 3 employees has to always be concerned about anyway, because if your business is that small, your employee might come to work one day and decide they're moving on. So they're gone. That's right. So I mean, it's not like that's right. It's not like this is an anomaly. Like they were never ever going to be removed from your presence. Indentured servants. So wow. So this is a pretty good thing. What about the entities such as like religious institutions, churches, mosques, synagogues that may have staff or employees?
Yes. So it does apply. The definition of employer in this law is very broad. And we most certainly, I can tell you, have heard a lot of feedback from churches, mosques, synagogues, others that are usually tax-exempt entities, because some do see this as a tax, and those that are not required by the Department of Labor by statute to pay into unemployment. So often what we hear is, I don't understand why I need to do this, withhold this 0.5%, or give people paid leave because this doesn't apply to me. I have never had to pay unemployment. I've never had to engage in any other type of employment law in the state or adhere to any other type of employment law in the state. So why all of a sudden do I have to do this? But that is precisely why this law exists, because we know that there are employees everywhere that may not have had the benefit of the Family and Medical Leave Act or the ability to take the paid leave, to take family and medical leave and then have some form of wage replacement while they were out. That is precisely why this law exists. So we have definitely heard the feedback. And you were talking about small employers before. Some churches and synagogues are also small employers, right? They may not be part of a larger religious network, and they're it. So they're feeling it. And we definitely understand that. But to your point earlier, people are not in indentured servitude. They can decide. We are in a very tight labor market, and they may decide that they don't want to work there anymore. What employers tell us is, but it was easier to manage because you, paid leave authority, weren't offering an incentive for people to take that time by offering a paid or wage replacement. So now that's an even greater disincentive for people to stay. But really, the evidence in every other state that has a paid leave program just doesn't support that. What we know is that people take time off, they go back to work, and that is already happening. We have people that took time off in January, they're already back to work. People that took 2 weeks off in February, they're already back to work. It is not a paid vacation. And we understand that employers have a definite concern, but from what we can tell, the evidence just does not support that concern. It just doesn't.
All right. Well, that sounds to me more like a issue around best practices for employers. There should be a whole course for best practices from employers, because at the end of the day,
Yes,
people don't leave their jobs; they leave their boss. A lot of bosses don't like hearing that, and so, I think a lot of restaurant owners are finding this out to be so, that when people have options, they may not want to work for you. So you may have to change
correct.
the workplace. You don't need a bailout. You need to readjust how you do business.
Right. And I think a lot of employees have said, I may have had to tolerate certain working conditions and working environments, including bosses, that may have been less than ideal for me because I needed to take care of my family.
Right.
And then the pandemic hit, and now we see that employees are feeling much more empowered to make their own decisions, not just in our state, but really across the country and across the world. This is what the Great Resignation is being called, where people, I think, are making different decisions about the conditions under which they are willing to work. And that includes how they're treated and what they're paid. And we just happen to be really right in the center of that, given the timing of this particular program. So we are not the reason why people are not returning to particular employers. We're not offering an additional incentive for them to do anything other than an excellent job for you. Those that are motivated to work are working for employers of their choice. And we are providing this benefit to everyone, no matter where they work, as I said before, with a few exceptions.
All right. So this has been very, very enlightening and great information that people need to know. If you all out there are employed, this is something that you more than likely have access to. It is something that's provided by the state of Connecticut, and you have some protections, and you're paying into it. I mean, you are paying for this, so you may as well, at the very least, take advantage of it, not abuse it, but take advantage of it. And it seems to me that this is the kind of thing that's not easily abused. If you've got somebody, you've got administrators like Aflac and things like that trying to
That's right.
to look, because they're always looking out for those people who want to abuse the system.
Yes.
By nature
yes,
of
they
what
are.
they do.
And that was another reason why it made sense for us to partner with Aflac, because they have so many more resources. They have a special investigations unit. They have software that can track patterns of suspicious behavior and suspicious activity, so that we can really keep our hands around fraud, because it's one of the greatest concerns that people express is, will the fund run out of money, and who's going to manage fraud? So we were able to answer both of those questions, one of which is that the fund is proven to be solvent through the next 5 years. And if we do find ourselves in a tight financial situation, we have the ability to adjust the amount of benefit that's paid, which I know is not popular, but it's better than zero, which is which is what we often say. So you may not receive the $780, you may receive some amount that's lower than that, but that's still some form of wage replacement. That's certainly more ideal than not receiving anything from a fund that no longer has any resources. And then we have this significant partnership that allows us to manage fraud. But Stan, I want to talk about two things that are really important to our community.
Okay.
Our communities of color, and one of which is how to avail yourself of this leave when you are caring for a family member. So we know that the number of children who are involved in the child protection system are disproportionately children of color. So now when a child is either removed from their home or they're placed with somebody, we're really hoping that that placement is within kinship care. So now grandma may be young grandma and she's working. And so now she's got to figure out, okay, now my grandbaby's living with me because mom or dad, has a particular issue or concern that doesn't allow them to take care of their child anymore. What am I supposed to do? So to your point earlier, grandma would often quit her job because she couldn't take the time off to take care of the person, or the same thing for auntie or cousin. it's important to know that this program is available to foster and adoptive families too. So that when you find yourself either in probate court or in DCF Family Protection Court, now the guardian or the temporary guardian of a little baby in your family or a teenager or some child that's under 18 who now needs kinship care, and you need time to bond with that child because they're coming into your home for a significant period of time, you should be applying for the family and medical leave benefit. This is so important. People really need to know this. The other thing is that we are a community that often takes care of our own. So I will go back to taking care of the caregiver leave. People don't really know this. Like you said this before, people quit their jobs so they can take the caregiver leave. But if you have the 12 weeks of that leave that's available to you, then I'm really going to encourage you to pursue that first before you quit your job. Things may be such that you may exhaust that 12 weeks, but at least start there and don't just up and quit when you have an option to take these 12 weeks of leave and receive wage replacement when you qualify, so that you don't have to suffer that financial devastation that comes with having to walk away from your job because you have somebody that you need to care for. The final thing I will say, and I will say this because I actually worked with a woman who was in the same circumstance, and I'm talking now to all of the women of color, take care of yourselves. Take this time, if you have a serious health condition, to take that time from one job, two jobs, get that wage replacement, and don't ignore the signs that your health is changing. Because I've seen women do this. We do this because so many people are depending on us. We're taking care of our mamas and our daddies and our children and our grandbabies, and we ignore our own health. And this really is an opportunity for you to be able to step back and not let that disease or disorder get you so that you're not able to take care of anybody else. Because when you're gone, they'll mourn you, they'll love you, they'll weep for you, but you are so much more valuable when you take care of yourself and you can be here. So that's really what I really wanted to share with our community so they can understand and know that these benefits are available to them and they should be asking about them and using them because it will help save them and save their lives in some instances.
All right. Well, great information. If you guys put together any kind of PSAs or anything, please make sure I get one or get them so I can run them, often on the program. We'll run them so that people can be kept aware of this. And of course, anytime you want, feel free to stop by. We're here every single morning, and we keep the drumbeat going so people are made aware of this. And great information. Any other closing comments?
No, I just really want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak to our community so that they can know that this exists. We are just so grateful. I know I'm personally grateful to be able to do this work because I know it will change people's lives. So I just want to leave everybody with the phone number so that they can know where to call and our website. So the phone number is 877-499-8606. That's the number that you can call to inquire or file an application, or you can go right to our website, which is ctpaidleave.org. And right there, you'll see the way that you can get started to start your application if you prefer to do it on the computer.
Okay. Say the number one more time.
The number is 877-499-8606, and that connects you directly to AFLAC. Or you can go to our website, which is ctpaidleave.org.
All right. Joining us this morning, CEO of the Connecticut Paid Leave and Medical Leave Insurance Authority, Andrea Barton Reeves. Thank you very much for stopping by. It's great to see you.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Have a fabulous rest of your day.
You too as well. Thanks.
All right,
Bye.
my friends, we'll continue on. We'll take a short break. We'll come back and wrap it up. Let's do a quick money. Take your money minute here with Paul Willis. Stick and stay. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Welcome to another episode of Your Buck Stops Here for a Minute, an 8-part series about financial responsibility. I am your host, Paul Willis, and today's episode will be Consider the Interest. Well, the same logic applies to all recurring payments that involve paying interest. We all know it. We all have it in regards to anything of what we purchase, large, small, that there's some kind of interest being made. Think about it. Paying interest on anything means that you are spending more on that item than the purchase price. Does that sound like the most responsible choice or just the most convenient? When the interest payments are factored into the purchase price, you are spending more to obtain the item than even that the item's manufacturer thought it was worth. Wow. As such, avoiding payment interest on anything should be a major objective. Of course, when it comes to the cost of housing and personal transportation, avoiding interest is impossible for most of us in those items. In such situations, minimizing the amount you spend in interest each month is the most responsible action you can take. I hope you learned something from this one. Thank you for tuning in to another segment of Your Buck Stops Here for a Minute. I have been your host, Paul Willis. For more information, check out my website at Anytime Fund Productions. That's www.anytimefunnproductions.com. Sign up for one of our free seminars for more information. And I'll see you again for another episode of Your Buck Stops Here for a Minute, where your money management counts.
My name is J. Stan McCauley, and I do business as Light Source Productions. I provide professional services in the area of strategic video communications. First, what we do is we help you craft your message using what I call the rule of the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. We do event documentation, content acquisition, full-scale productions, editing, and of course distribution through our social media television network. And with social media, video is more important now than it has ever been. Whether you're talking big business, small business, nonprofit, church, or just an individual. Let's say you plan you're planning an event, a wedding, whatever the case may be. But let's say a big event, but no video. And you spent all this time, all these hours to put this event on, and maybe 100, 200 people attend the event. But more important than that is that thousands could attend by watching it on social media. But of course, you don't think about this until after the event is over. You can't afford not to capture it for social media. And despite what people think, I am affordable. Give me a call. Let's plan your next video project and share it with the world on my social media television network. I promise you that you will have the attention of one person, me. Independent thinkers are Puerto Rican, Mexican, Peruvian, Indian, Bosnian, Italian, Irish, Jamaican, African American, European, straight, gay, Nigerian, transgender, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, short, tall, skinny, rich, poor, happy, sad. Some of us hold a PhD and others a GED. And though we may be Democrats, Republicans, or members of the Working Families Party, we all have escaped the plantation of party politics and become independent thinkers because we as individuals are more than a party. You see, independent thinkers come from all walks of life. And the one thing we all have in common is that we love, live, laugh, and learn in the city of Hartford. We are the constituents, and the government of Hartford belongs to us. My name is J. Stan McCauley. I'm an independent thinker, and I approve this message because it's time to stop towing the party line and vote for a candidate you can trust. You too can escape the plantation of party politics if you have the courage to free your political mind.
For us to hit the road. It's Thursday. We have special guests today. Andrea Barton Reeves, CEO of the Connecticut Paid Family and Medical Leave Insurance Authority. Great information she shared with us this morning. And if you joining us late, you can catch the interview by pausing, scrolling back to the beginning, and getting caught up. That's simple. Our time together has come to an end, my friends. We'll be here tomorrow. Special guest Dr. Joe, aka Joe Young. He is the creative genius behind Young Studios, and they just got finished doing a project with Smokey Robinson, and it's a really cool project. We played it during the week here. We'll play it tomorrow when he's here joining us, Dr. Joe Young. So Cleo Duke Wright will be here with our special guest, and we'll see you then. All right. If you're not doing anything tonight around 10 o'clock, you want to hang out, you can feel free to join me. 10 o'clock, I have Bible study every night at 10, so that's always a nice and fun time. At least I think so. I like talking about the Bible, so I can't think of anything more exciting to talk about. So tune in on Monday through Friday right here for Bible study, as we have Bible study nightly. All right, let's get ready to head on out. If you have a subject matter you would love for us to explore, or find a guest to come in and talk about something that's of interest to you, let me know. All right, you could send me an email to this address right here, morningtalk@accesstv.org. morningtalk@accesstv.org. Also, if you want to get on our dedicated caller list, if you send me your telephone number to this address, I will put you on the dedicated caller list. Then, if you call in, I'll see that you're a dedicated caller, and you get on the air and talk about whatever it is that's on your mind. Okay? Because that's what we do in the morning time. We talk, morning talk, just for you. All right? A community give back from me and my wife. All right? God bless you all. We will see you next time. You'll have a fabulous, blessed rest of your day. Ciao, ciao.